Hello, welcome to the tutorial on Excel Lesson 1. We're going to be learning how to do some basic formulas and functions in this lesson. A couple of things from the word overview that you need to remember are your formula bar here, auto sum up here, and that each formula or function begins with the equal sign. On each of your assignments, it will require you to put in a header. And the easiest way to do that is to change your view with this tool down here. This will put us in the page layout view. When you click that, then you get extra fields up here. The header is divided into 3 sections or containers. So in the far left one, you're always going to put the assignment name. Now instead of typing in Excel 1A or whatever the assignment name is, you can just come here to your header and footer tools and click File Name. It puts in a funny code, but as soon as you click out of it, it puts in your lesson name. You may want to follow on this lesson so that you really get a grasp of the formulas and functions that we're using. So this is practice lesson 1 file if you want to pull that up and then have your Excel screen and your movie screen both minimized to partial. That'll help you watch and follow along as we go. The middle section of the header will be some type of title or a title that the assignment requires you to do. So this one we're just going to call it payroll calculator. And then the far left or far right, sorry, will always be your name. Most of the assignments that you will be required to do will have a starter file for you that you will pull up. I believe that one you will be typing from scratch. So let's look at our data here that we have. This is a payroll calculator. We have our employees listed here. We have the hours that they work during the week. Then we have their overtime hours. So anything over 40 is considered overtime. So note some of these, Livia only worked 35, so she doesn't have any overtime hours. Hourly rate represents the amount that these people get paid per hour. So we're going to figure out their regular pay, their overtime pay, if any, and then their gross pay, which is a combination of regular pay and overtime pay together. It's really important in Excel to think back to your basic math. Excel is a powerful program, but it is not smarter than you are. And it's up to you as the human brain to figure out what math is needed to get your formula to work. So I just want you to common sense this. This is 5th, 6th grade math. Think about how you would figure out your pay if you worked 40 hours and made $16 an hour. And after you think about that a minute, it should come into your head, oh, I multiply or I times my hours worked by my rate per hour. So once again, every formula has to begin with an equal sign. And then I'm just going to click on my hours on this top cell, and then I'm multiplying, which is the asterisk, or shift and the number 8. And then my rate, which is my amount per hour, and then I hit enter. So regular pay for Peter is $640. Now I need to calculate that for all of my remaining employees, but instead of going through and doing that 7 or 8 more times, I can just take the formula from this first cell, use my autofill handle, and remember that you need a solid black mouse pointer. If you use the four-headed arrow, you're going to move it. If it's the white, you're just going to be selecting. So make sure you have the solid black mouse pointer and you're just going to drag down. Now as you do that, it's like magic. It's figuring out regular pay for all of the remaining employees. Excel is really smart in that it knows how to make cell references relative. So notice that here for Peter's, B5 times D5, when I copied that formula down, it knew for this next employee to move everything down a row. So now I'm on row 6, row 7, and so on. This is called relative referencing. So Excel knows to just copy the formula but make it relative to the row that your date is on. Okay, now I'm going to come over to column F and figure out overtime pay for my employees. This formula is a little more complicated because it involves two things. First, I have to figure out how much my employees get paid overtime per hour, and then I need to times that by the amount of overtime hours they worked. And in this specific company, the overtime rate is calculated at 1.5 times the regular pay. That's pretty standard for most employees. So if my regular rate is 16, my overtime pay is going to be 1.5 times that per hour. So I'm going to click in my destination cell, or where I want this formula to be, and then I hit my equals, and I'm going to click over here on my hourly rate, and I'm going to times that by 1.5. Now I'm not finished yet. That's only going to figure out overtime rate per hour. If I hit enter right here, it would only give me the result as if this person had worked 1 hour, and they haven't worked 1 hour overtime, they've worked 4. So I'm going to take and put parentheses around that formula that I just created. So within this parentheses represents how much overtime pay is per hour. And then I need to times that rate by the amount of hours worked overtime. So just take a minute and look at that and make sure you understand. D5 times 1.5 represents the hourly rate at 1.5 times, or my new rate I'm getting paid overtime. And then C5 represents the amount of hours worked. It's really important that you use parentheses to package your chunks of formulas. Now once I have that, I hit enter. So Peter's overtime pay is $96. It would be so painful to go ahead and do that for the remaining ones. So I'm just going to use my fill handle again and pull that down. Notice that there isn't a result for each because some of these people did not work over 40 hours. All right, then my last column is my gross pay, which represents my regular pay and my overtime together. So think in your head, I worked regular pay and I worked overtime pay. Okay, that's adding. So once again, I'm going to start with an equals, and I'm doing regular pay plus overtime pay is going to equal my gross pay. And then I can use my fill handle to copy that down. So in your assignments for this lesson, it's going to require you to common sense things a lot. There's not going to be in the directions, it's not going to say to figure the difference between this you need to subtract. You just need to know, okay, difference means subtraction. Or it may say figure the percent of this, and you need to know percents are always times. So you're going to have to reach back in your brain to that basic math that you learned at the end of elementary school and think about which mathematical operators that you need to use to make these work. I'm going to open a new worksheet because there's one other thing in your assignments that might stump you. One of your assignments has a list of inventory items. So I'm just going to let's change this to say price after. Okay, so I'm going to have a bunch of items in my store and their regular price. I don't know. We'll just be really general. Okay. And we're going to enter some prices here. Okay. Now this column here, this is going to represent my regular price, but there's a sale going on and so the customer gets 15% off. And so this column needs to reflect the sales price. This is another example, much like our payroll over here, where we have to do two steps, and part of our formula has to be in parentheses. Oh, I just got lost. Where is my file? Okay. So the first thing I need to think about is, how do I find a percent of something? Do I add, subtract, times, or divide? And if you remember, hopefully your teachers taught you this, if you're finding a percent of something, the word of can just be substituted out with multiply. So it's percent times regular price. So I'm going to start out my formula with equals 15% times this cell here. Okay, now if I hit enter right now, that's just going to give me the amount of the discount, not the amount that the item costs. So again, I need to do this in two parts. I'm going to put this in parentheses, and I'm going to click right between my equal sign and my first parentheses, and I'm going to put in my 45 again, my cell B2, and then a minus. So it's the original price minus 15% of the original price. Then I hit enter, and this is my price after discount, and then I can just use my fill handle to drag that down. Now I know that we're working with currency or money here, and this does not look right, but we'll be learning how to format our cells in the next lesson or one down the road a bit. So once again, really think about your mathematical operations. There are answer keys to each of these assignments, and I strongly advise checking your answers against the answer keys so that you're on the right track. And if your answer's wrong, go back and think about what you need to do to make that formula work. A few other things that you'll need to know formatting wise for your assignments. Some of them require that you change your orientation from portrait to landscape. And just as in Word, that is located on your page layout ribbon and here in orientation. You can also change your orientation from the file print here. I'm going to go back to our payroll calculator. Another assignment requires you to turn your grid lines off. So grid lines are just these faint gray lines that define your cells. To turn those off, you're just going to click View and then uncheck this grid lines box here. Another thing that you'll be asked to do on your assignments is to show your formulas. So if you click on your Formulas tab and then click Show Formulas here, then this is going to show what's going on behind the scenes and help me understand if you're getting the concept or not. For most of your assignments, it will require you to print one assignment with the formulas and one without. So you would first have it without your formulas and then come to File Print. Make sure everything fits on one page. If it doesn't, you're going to need to come here to the No Scaling and choose to fit sheet on one page. Then you'd go ahead and print that sheet. Then go to your Formulas tab, Show Formulas, print. Change to landscape on ones that are really wide, and then make sure you have fit sheet on one page so that it's not split up into multiple pages. And that concludes the tutorial for Excel Lesson 1. Good luck!